this property is very special to Goa. It's one of its kind because it's right on a beautiful location where this movie Agnipath was shot. It was actually shot on this place. Lots of movies were shot around this place. I think it's a lovely location to begin with. This property, the only challenge was COVID. Otherwise I don't think so there was any other property, because COVID time it went up and down, opening, closing, so we could not do the proper marketing. People were in their own world of fear at that time, and if you go and tell somebody, oh, a nice hotel is open, they wouldn't have accepted it. But I think we did a very good job, and slowly today it is one of the most famous hotel in Goa. So that goes without saying, because you are number one on all your ratings. When it comes to TripAdvisor rating or any rating that you see, it's number one. It brings in a different experience, and to add to the exchequer of the state, because it again has huge inventory of 300 rooms. It has the biggest banquet hall, which is 1,300 square feet, which makes it even more happening, because all the conventions are held here, and nobody has such a big hall. So it's a different story. It's spinning a different sort of a story for Goa, and I think it's doing extremely well. We are very proud of this property, and now there's no looking back for it. So you can have your own cooking classes here. You can have your private dinners under the star on the terrace above, which is one of its kind. It's like the Marina Bay Sands of Singapore. You can just have your exchange of vows. You can have your exchange of rings there, which has happened already. The swimming pool is stunning. It's an infinity pool overlooking the vast oceans and the harbor. It's one of its kind again. The food experience is different here. If you really come, it's different. So you cater to everything. If there was a way, we wouldn't have the menu. You ask for it and you get it. Whether it's Mexican, whether it's Turkish, whether it's anything, whether it's a cold stone ice cream, whatever it is. So it's like anything you can order, any time of the day. That makes it very, very special. You can wake up at 4 in the morning, or you can wake up at 2 in the morning and say, I want to have a masala dosa, and nobody will say no. So that's Tajdus for us. But the experiences for this property differs, because it is more of a banquet hotel. So we had to think of some other experiences that we had. Like we created a lot of experiences for children, where we put them in chef courts and give them cookie dressing classes and things like that. There is a lot of experiences on the water, where we take people for dolphin sighting. We have tied up with a local boatman here. So it's completely different from when it comes to experiences for this property. It is a mix of a convention center and also an FIT, but we balance it very well. For the FITs, we do a lot of these experiences, and whatever you have in mind for an experience, we do it for you. Like we do the heritage walk of Siddharth Goa as an experience. We do a heritage walk of Pointennis as an experience. So you just have to meet our concierge, and they will get it done for you. So there's a lot of experiences in this hotel and around this hotel and in Goa that we cater to. So C2C is coast to coast. People generally mistake it for seafood restaurant, but no, it's from coast to coast. It is like going from one coast to another, all over the world you can picture. So we have the menu there. We were really skeptical whether it will work or not work, but it has become very, very popular with the locals and with all the guests that we have in the hotel. They love it. It's packed most of the times. We're doing very good revenues, but I think it brings in a different element when it comes there. You can sit by the water, enjoy a vegetarian food, for example. Normally people say, oh, by the water is seafood, but you can enjoy a good vegetarian food, and it's high end. It's truffle mushrooms. It's the best cheeses in the world. It's the best wines in the world. You have a barman who dishes out wonderful cocktails for you, like a curry leaf cocktail and things like that, which is very, very innovative in its own way, which is immersive, and which is as you say, it is good for your health. Most of they're all botanicals, and not those ones you just drink and you get a hangover the next day. But I think it is done with precision. The chef has handpicked menu there, and I think again we don't ever say no to if you want a food in different style, we give it to you there also. But C2C is doing extremely well, and we see it going great guns again.
During the pandemic, of course, Goa did extremely well. Most of the country was here. What did it mean for a brand like you? I mean, what was those pandemic experiences like for you?
See, for us, it was keeping Goa alive. we were the front runners to go to the government and to say that open Goa when the sentiments of people were very this thing, and we did everything to. So we did not say okay, abhi Goa band hai, to abhi that's the no. We kept on striving and keeping the people alive, saying that this is the only bread that we have. This is the only way Goa can survive. And we are glad we did the highest profits last year for the Goa portfolio. To go on record, we did 160 crores profit, which is a huge amount of money, and a huge amount of tax is gone to the government because the turnover is even higher. And I think that is what is important. Most important for us is as a stakeholder, of tourism. We have our own stakeholders, like the local brand. It depends on us. The local lady. There might be a lady who's there. So we have these ladies in Mala region, who makes different types of foods and things like that, which we buy it for them to support our patya, because we are, there's probably single mothers or they do not have any other livelihood, but they supply food to us. So these people were dependent on us. The musicians were dependent on us.
Chef Sonakshi is the junior sous chef and very, very passionate about C2C. As you will see in the conversation. Welcome, Sonakshi.
Thank you so much.
So, Sonakshi, tell us a little bit about the concept of C2C. So, coast to coast, yes, but what are the kind of cuisine you serve, or what's the kind of concept that's based on?
Definitely. So, C2C or coast to coast is basically divided into three parts. So we have the western region, the eastern region, and the local region. Each region covers different coastal locations around the world. So under the western region, we focused a lot on France and Europe, and under the eastern region, we focus on Southeast Asia majorly, and then under the local coast, of course, we have the Goan coast, and we also have the Konkan coast and a little bit of the Malabar coast. Now, when we talk about C2C, we celebrate over here, the offerings from the sea and from the land. So we're a restaurant that tries to, talk about food that comes not just, from the sea, but also from the shores of the global coastline. So it's not like we're restricted to one coastline. And many a times when you say coast to coast, people essentially, straight away go in the direction of it being a seafood restaurant.
Yeah.
But we're not just a seafood restaurant. Like I mentioned to you, we try to incorporate both, the land near the sea and the sea itself. When we initially started, we went all over. We went on a virtual tour across the globe. And then we narrowed it down to certain specific regions. So when we talk about the western coast, we have a lot of influences, from Europe. And when we talk about the eastern coast, we have a lot of Southeast Asia. So you'll see a lot of Thailand, a lot of Singapore, a lot of China, and then finally in the local coast we have Goa, of course, and then we have influences from the southern part. So
how did you choose the kind of dishes that would go on the menu, given that you're covering pretty much global coastal cuisine?
So you're asking me a very difficult question because it started with a lot of arguments and a very intensive brainstorming session we had when we started about 100 dishes that we wanted to put to the menu. And of course, while trials and understanding things that we can actually procure in Goa and the resources we had available, we sort of narrowed it down. And of course, thanks to people like you who came for our pre-sampling and gave us feedback. So we tried to take as much as feedback we could take from our guests. That's why we actually had the pre-sampling, and try and understand what does the clientele in Goa would, prefer one dish over the other. So that's why I would say that we sort of narrowed down our dishes. And of course, the thing about C2C and my team is that we wanted to do things that we could do best. So starting with the western coast, we have the green asparagus, which is a very different dish that you do not usually find on menus or see across the region. So the green asparagus is essentially, we have puff pastry, and I can say this with full confidence, one of the best puff pastries you would find in Goa, because our pastry Chef Nathan is fabulous. And then we have a nice creamy morel sauce. So morels are a type of mushrooms that we use. Make a nice creamy sauce with it. And then we have the green Peruvian asparagus. So if I was, it's sort of laid up. So you have the crunch from the puff pastry, you have, the nice sturdy texture of the asparagus, and then you have the creaminess and the earthiness coming from the morels. So that is one of the dishes in the western coast. We also have the chatka king crabs, which are the most talked about.
Everybody talks about, yes.
Yeah, that dish is essentially Russian king crabs, which we serve with chili butter. Again, very simple and clear flavors, only because we don't want to take over the flavors of the seafood itself. And then we have the lobster thermidor revisited.
Which is your speciality.
Yeah, then we move to the eastern coast. We have a very refreshing, very simple, clean pomelo salad that we offer, and that, for me personally, that's a perfect lunchtime dish. We serve it with a chili jaggery tamarind dressing, and then we have the tuna tataki on the salt slab, which is also a play on colors, because the dark maroon from the tuna laid down on a Himalayan salt slab gives you a really good contrast, and we do a maple sesame dressing with that. And then of course we have the wok chow mein, which is I just feel like you can't go wrong with chow mein. Yeah. It's like it's comfort food. If I was to say. So we serve a variation of seafood and vegetarian. And vegetables in that, and then finally to the local coast, we have the rissois, because fried and cheese is always a safe space. We also have the crab cakes in the local coast, and we do a mushroom chapati, and again one of my very favorites, mutton roast, served with a small Malabar parantha.
So there is quite a bit of vegetarian on the menu, and most people think coast and vegetarian don't go together. In fact, many don't even know that the coast has their own meat culture, culinary culture.
Right.
When it comes to vegetarian, what is the kind of dishes you put in? What is the kind of produce you have used from across the world?
So we've tried to incorporate as much vegetarian as we can in the menu. So when we talk about each coast, we have tried to keep the vegetables, we try to keep them seasonal vegetables, so whatever we can lay our hands on. I am particularly always looking out as that if this comes into the market, I have to be the first one to get my hands on it. I'm a Punjabi, and people always have this thing that Punjabis are non-vegetarian. So I'm a Punjabi, and I know that our cuisine is very vegetarian driven. So that's what I try to incorporate here also, because it's practically the same thing. When you say coast, they're like, oh, it must be a seafood restaurant, but it's actually not. We actually we have a lot of baby carrots, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, cauliflower. We also do sweet potatoes, and we also have edamame on our menu, and the list is endless, because if you see anywhere in our menu, right, we don't mention vegetables, we've mentioned it as seasonal vegetables. So whatever we can get our hands on. So there's no hard and fast, that carrot though you will get every time you get to C2C, you will come and get carrot.
Okay. So coastal cuisine is also about spices.
Definitely.
Or largely, because every coastal region has its own set of spices. So what kind of spices, are spices heroes in your in what you serve here, as much as to produce?
So yes, definitely. It depends on the dish, to be very honest with you. Like we have a lot of spices and herbs. So when you talk about the eastern coast, right, you have more herbs than spices involved. Right, spices you would have star anise, cinnamon, clove, little bit of clove, and Sichuan peppers. But you'll have more of kaffir lime, galangal, lemongrass. So you have nice aromats going into the flavor. So actually, very interestingly, we have laksa on the menu, and we make the laksa paste over here, and it takes us a long time. It takes us nearly 5 to 6 hours just to get the laksa paste going. So we use a lot of aromats in that sense in the eastern coast. Again, when you talk about local, Indian food has always had a very good balance between spicy and aromats. So we have a lot of different kind of spices from there also. Like we have peppercorns, we have nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, coriander, and like I was mentioning, one of our dishes, the mutton roast, it is heavily flavored with fennel. You know, and during my journey with C2C, I actually realized that there are so many different kinds of spices that we actually, don't use as
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you an example. Nutmeg,
Yeah.
I use it in the kitchen more for my Western food
Than
than I do for my local food. And I'm like, 1 second, doesn't nutmeg?
Grew in India.
Yeah. I'm like, why am I not using this
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
So, it makes you think that, okay, wait, there are a lot of similarities and a lot of scope of, sort of bringing things
Yeah.
together.
And what are the kind of experiments, innovations you've done? What are the tweaks you've added to the menu?
So, in terms of tweaks to the menu, we try to keep the ethos of the dish as close as possible because I know that people are passionate about their food, and when you talk about regional food, right, you cannot just serve anything and call it anything. So we, for example, like rissoles in Goa, you wouldn't typically find a spinach stuffing, but we've always, we know that spinach and cheese or spinach and a white sauce or cream sauce is always a great pairing. It goes really well. So that is something that we've incorporated within the spinach. Another tweak that we've done is with our lobster thermidor. So lobster thermidor essentially served with like a nice creamy cheesy sauce. However, we've sort of done a milder cream sauce and sort of just used a little bit of cheese so that our guests can enjoy the lobster in itself, and that remains the hero of the entire dish. And finally, we also have mean poli chattu on the menu. And what we do differently with it is that instead of a pearl spot, we actually use pomfret. And I actually do serve it with a small sauce on the side. People would kill me, People are like, what? No, you don't serve a sauce on the side with that. And I'm just like, well, it's actually, that dish actually came up with while we were trying. We were trying a million things, and one of my team members, they just added a little bit of moily sauce, and they were eating it like we do. And I tasted it, and I was like, oh man, this works. Like, I know this is not authentic in any sense, but this works, this goes really well. And we started dishing it out, and the response has been great. People question why, and I'm just like, try it. Let the food speak for itself. So those are small couple of tweaks that we've done in the menu.
And what is your personal favorite on the menu?
You are asking me a very tough question. Okay, I'll give you 3 personal favorites. Okay. So to start with, green asparagus is I love green asparagus, and the reason I love it is because personally it's not something I've come across anywhere else. So it's very different for me. The second thing is, of course, the lobster thermidor. I've been talking about it quite a bit. And finally, from the local coast, it has to be the mutton roast with the Malabar paratha, because that's my speciality. Like, I specialize in South Indian food, so for me, that's like my baby on the menu. And I know I forgot the Eastern coast because I don't know how to choose between the dim sums and the chow mein. But I'm actually gonna go ahead and choose the veg chow mein. And surprisingly, a lot of our guests compliment us that our veg chow mein actually comes up far better than our seafood chow mein.